We gather in this sacred space, made more sacred in this moment by the presence and attention of each and every one of us. I invite those gathered in the sanctuary to greet those attending from home on the live screen by turning around and waving from your pew. And for those in the sanctuary, let's greet one another face to face or mask to mask. That was nice. Good morning. My name is Stephen Perepelic, and I am today's worship associate. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. The Winchester Unitarian Society is a welcoming, caring community devoted to spiritual growth, social transformation, and environmental responsibility. Guided by Unitarian Universalist principles, as well as the diverse traditions of many faiths, we live our values through worship, reflection, connection, and service. Here we welcome all, people of all racial and ethnic backgrounds, of all sexual orientations and genders, of all incomes and abilities, people of all beliefs, and people with religious questions. We know you are here for different reasons: to find community, to seek your spiritual and personal truths, to question, to nurture your heart and soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find the answers to some of your bigger questions. At this time, I'd like to remind you to check out our email newsletter, which comes out every other week in the summer, to learn about all the activities planned for the near future. Please also note that if you're not already on our mailing list, I know there are some new members here today, you can sign up on our website. Today's summer service is being led today by WUS member Ivan Carrera and several family members, including Sheila, Ryan, and Joshua. That was Joshua playing the gathering music a moment ago. As you may have found out during the greeting, we are also happy to welcome more members of Ivan's family, including his look-alike brother, and other members of the family who are logging in from Africa and Canada as well. Welcome. Speaking of summer services, we have one remaining next week to be led by Lee Barton. Then we will resume our congregational year in 2 weeks on September 11th. There will be a potluck luncheon following that service, and please see highlights about how to sign up if you care to bring a dish. And today we will not be holding our post-service conversation in the parlor at noon. Instead, please join Ivan and family for coffee hour and conversation on the Bell Tower Terrace. And now, let's open our hearts and minds to the spirit of worship with these opening words.
Morning. These opening words are from Mary Oliver, aptly titled, "The Journey." One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the winds pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones, but little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn. Through the sheets of clouds, there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save.
Amidst the swirl of life's challenges, fears, and even moments of crisis, I make time to gaze at the night sky to see the vastness there, and to remember that this moment in time is but a flicker, not an inconsequential flicker, for what I do and think now does matter. My work, though, is to let the debris of this world pass by, while I anchor myself to what I know is true: love, kindness, compassion, and caring for this precious life, this precious planet, and all that calls this place home. This is my North Star. With love as my guide, how can I possibly go wrong?
Our opening hymn, Morning Has Broken. Now we get personal. At this moment in the summer service is the time when we invite members from here in the sanctuary to come up and to share a joy or sorrow and to light a candle.
I'm Sheila Rudolph Correa, and my joy is the pleasure of having Ivan's family members come join us for the past week. It's been delightful having them, and we're so pleased to have them help in the service today.
Good morning. I'm Donna Reed, and I guess one of my joys is that I've been waiting for this Sunday to hear the talk this morning, so thank you for doing it for us. And I also want to, I guess, express a wish that as we move into our new season this September, that more and more people will feel safe to come back to the church, because I'm really missing a lot of people. And if you're out there, hello.
I'm Margaret Sudbury, and I'm full of joy because of the renewal of the school year coming up. Not because I was a teacher, and I'm glad that's through, but because my grandkids will finally be in a classroom. The 5-year-old needs civilizing. They've been in New Hampshire for the whole pandemic, and they're moving back to Somerville, so I'll be able to see them more often without a long drive, and the 9-year-old girl is looking forward to seeing friends. So that is a wonderful time after Labor Day.
Hi, my name is Dennis Brett. It's really good to see so many people here today. One of the things for me that's good is sometimes summer can be a little bit, I guess, difficult because everything seems to end in the spring. So I look forward to the fall and choir starting again, which will be absolutely wonderful, and just doing things that that I just really enjoy doing. And so it's really glad that you said that we're looking forward to the fall, because I am clearly looking forward to the fall. Thank you very much. Would you mind? Not at all.
This is a joy, gratitude. There's so much of work that goes behind the scenes that you may not realize. So I'd like to thank John. I'd like to thank Dennis, Stephen, Sean and Jay, and Michael in the back, and Richard as well. So thank you very much for helping put this together. It makes it so much easier for anyone who hosts it. And I recommend doing this because it's really a community that builds together. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Sean Kramer. I just wanted to celebrate. I had a wonderful week in Vermont. I always do every summer, where I teach at a chamber music camp, and we have young musicians from ages 8 to 13 playing all manner of piano quintets and string quartets and trios, and they just are wonderful young musicians and young people, and just want to celebrate the human spirit and music making of all sorts, and especially music making on a beautiful lake in Vermont. And you can sort of have that picture in your mind.
I'll now light one more candle for all of the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken, and also to remind you that we'll now take a moment of shared silence together, and then we'll emerge from that by singing the hymn Mother Earth, Beloved Garden in the Teal hymnal. Thank you, Margaret.
Luke 21:25-33. There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on the earth distress among the nations, confused by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will faint from fear and foreboding of what is coming upon the world. For the powers of heaven will be shaken, and they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Now when these things begin to take place, stand up and raise your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Then he told them a parable. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. As soon as they sprout leaves, you can see for yourself and know that the summer is already near. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that the kingdom of God is near. Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away.
Of course, I need slides. Oh, I see. Extreme gardening. Extreme and gardening. These are two words that should never be strung together. The Bible is rife with such words that do not belong together, but are used to grab your attention. Words such as virgin birth, or the first shall be last. It is the same with apocalyptic texts such as the one I chose for today's reading. These texts scare the bejesus out of anyone reading them, especially if taken literally. Think about the seven-headed beasts and the wars and destructions in Revelations. Most of us think the biblical word apocalypse means the end of the world. However, apocalypse is a Greek word that literally means to uncover or reveal. It is when you see the true nature of things, strip or reveal something that you could not see before. Today's reflection is about change versus transformation. I will start off with a personal perspective and then transition to gardening. Thank you, Fred, for coming here. Change is easy. Change is when you simply substitute or replace something. However, transformation is a change so significant that it leaves the object of transformation unrecognizable from its previous state. A butterfly is a transformation and is not a better caterpillar. Slide 1. Let's start off with a reading from Luke. Thank you, Ryan. I was inspired by this apocalyptic passage after listening to Pastor Nadia Bolz-Weber's sermon. The first line in this reading is there to draw our attention to turmoil. And there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth distress amongst nations, confused by the roaring of the sea and waves. In today's time, you could easily substitute the roaring of the waves and the roaring of the sea and waves with rising temperature, drought, and the wildfires. However, the reading ends with this wonderful parable. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. As soon as you see they sprout leaves, you can see for yourselves that summer is here. This passage in the Bible is there to remind us that in the midst of all the turmoil, look around you. There's creation and beauty and so much more to be revealed. God is always with us in the present moment. As many of you are aware, I had back surgery in April, where I had to learn to walk all over again. For the first time in my life, I had limited movement, and I was on the bed, needing and allowing Sheila and the kids to help. I'm terrible at allowing. I do not like being vulnerable, and frankly, I would rather strive hard to become worthy rather than allowing. Slide 2. In Pastor Nadia's sermon, she says, transformative change does not happen when everything is going well. It happens when you get stuff thrown at you, when you least expect, and the rug is pulled out from under you. Allowing is hard, but real transformation happens when we allow ourselves to be loved, allow for help, allow for grief. Many of us, including myself, are fearful as we get older or have a long recovery after any illness. Just a year ago, it took me 90 minutes to close my exercise rings on my fitness app. Today, I'm ecstatic when I close my exercise rings with just a 30-minute walk. I spend a lot of my time stretching and strengthening my core. My nephew Joshua, who's into body mechanics, frequently reminds me of my posture. Stop slouching. Stop walking with your hands behind your back. You look like an old man. Of course, this is all so disorienting and foreign to me. Anyway, what should I do? Fight back or allow? Allow for the recovery process. Allow for the love and wisdom of well-meaning family. As Pastor Nadia preaches, that real transformation in relationships happen when we allow. Slide 3. The second line of the text, people will faint from fear and foreboding of what is coming upon the world. That is exactly the way I feel right now. There are so many things I'm afraid of becoming incapacitated, afraid of the awful political climate and what it could mean for our friends and family in the LGBTQ community. Afraid of my family making poor choices that will determine their future. However, as I look at my fear list, I must remind myself, at this present time, none of this is happening. With the parable, we are reminded again that despite all the turmoil and fear in our lives, take a deep breath and stay with the present. I invite you all to think for a moment of the list of things that you are afraid of at this time, and then breathe deeply and ask yourself, is any of this happening right now? Many of us have a mindful practice that helps bring calm and peace and ground us. God, again, is always with us at that present moment. The freaky imagery used in apocalyptic texts is also there to remind us that our human story is about violence, wars, pandemics, tyrants, disasters. We've seen dominant powers. Think about the colonization of Africa. We've seen pandemics. Think about the influenza virus that killed millions. Tyrants. Remember the atrocities committed by Idi Amin in Uganda? And despite all that turmoil, we are still here, and there is so much good around us. This is not to say that bad things cannot happen. Having faith does not mean that we are immune to bad things happening in our lives. Faith just means that in the midst of all that can go wrong, we have access to a deeper spiritual life, a life that focuses on the present moment and enjoying all around us, all this around us, which is why I love how today's reading ends with the beauty and image of leaves sprouting as it ties into the next part of my reflection on gardening. In 2019, I began dabbling in gardening, and for inspiration, I would walk around the neighborhood and take numerous photos of the beautiful gardens in Winchester. There was one home on Oxford Street that I always stopped by and admired. Slide 4. One day I met the resident and commented about her beautiful garden, and we ended up talking for over an hour. The following Sunday was Pie Sunday at church, and I suddenly heard a voice calling my name, and it turned out to be Barbara Hyde. It was her garden on Oxford Street that I so admired, and it was awesome to discover that she was part of this community. Barbara embodies all of the qualities of a great gardener. She's patient, generous, curious, and recognizes and identifies many of the plants she works with. Barbara would share her plants, and I would test them on my garden. We actually share a joke that my back problems were exacerbated with all of the plantings that I received from Barbara. And there may be some truth there. What started off as a simple love of being outdoors became a full-fledged passion. My extreme obsessiveness took over. I would continuously tinker with the garden, moving plants around and striving to create symmetry and play with color. I obsessed with change. But a kind of transformation happened during the lockdown in 2020. The pandemic was tough on all of us, and I'm quite sure several of you took up intense gardening. And it is well known that a regular dose of gardening can reduce depression and anxiety. We typically attribute the feel-good feeling to being outdoors and getting sun and fresh air. However, it was Christopher Lowry, a professor at the University of Colorado, who first published a manuscript linking soil microorganisms to brain health. Slide 5. Lowry was a research fellow at the University of Bristol in the early 2000s when he began to hear stories about a bacterium called Mycobacterium vaccae, a rare microorganism discovered in the soil on the shores of Lake Kyoga in Uganda. In April 2007, he published a groundbreaking study, and of course I have the citation right there, showing that when a preparation of Mycobacterium vaccae was injected into mice, it activated brain cells that produced the feel-good chemical serotonin and altered the animal's behavior in a way similar to that of antidepressants. As Chris goes on to say, we know that exposure to pets and rural environments during development is beneficial in reducing risk of asthma and allergies later in life. We can now show for the first time that these exposures are likely to be also important for mental health. Slide 6, please. Different types of plants provide different types of bacteria. Spinach, for example, contains over 800 species of bacteria. Chris has a 30-day plant smoothie made up of just vegetables, and I've listed them right over there. This is the equivalent of eating a whole forest or farm each day. This booster shake is meant to diversify the gut microbiome. Chris claims that the more diverse your microbiome is, the more resilient you are to mental health and physical ailments. Slide 7. In the midst of the pandemic, I found myself attending many seminars and presentations on gardening. There was one Winchester group founded by Fred Yen called Grow Local for the Planet that caught my attention. The topics covered by this group were varied and included healthy soils, use of native plants to attract native insects, increasing biodiversity, creating pollinator pathways, etc. The Facebook and website links to the group are pasted at the bottom of the slide. Next slide, please. Through this group, I was exposed to the teaching of Sadhguru, who is raising consciousness through Save the Soil. Sadhguru is an Indian mystic who has made healthy soil a personal crusade for over 20 years. He has spoken at the United Nations, Davos, World Bank, and almost all major universities in the world, including MIT and Harvard. He has several billion views on YouTube, mobilized millions of people in India to save their rivers and plant trees. This is aside from his spiritual teachings. I was also introduced to Doug Tallamy, who's the T.A. Baker Professor of Entomology at the University of Delaware. He's an author of several best-selling books. Doug speaks nationwide about his concerns that our approach to gardening must change. Widespread planting of ornamental plants native to other parts of the world is creating ecosystem-wide problems. Next slide, please. A recurring theme of many of the Grow Local meetings was on the use of regenerative gardening to not only restore soil, but also increase nutrient density of our foods. I learned that we can actually measure nutrient density using a handheld nutrient meter. We even had a demonstration from Fred Yen on the potential of this device. Think about walking into a grocery store and making informed choices on the vegetables you choose. I mean, it's pretty revolutionary. In fact, if you go to the website, you can't get that device. It's sold out. So, next slide, please. Through this group, I learned about the mycorrhizal fungi that cling to roots of plants in a symbiotic relationship. Think about an underground network that connects all life and the fungi acting as trading partners. Trees crave the nutrients they offer. Fungi, in turn, gobble up the carbon that trees provide. By one estimate, 5 billion tons of carbon flow from plants to the mycorrhizal fungi annually. They do a fantastic job at carbon sequestration. The diversity of these fungi is a huge factor in soil health. However, fungi are sensitive to human activity, chemical fertilizers, logging, and climate change. Next slide. Mycorrhizal fungi may end up being crucial to helping trees adapt to the climate crisis. During difficult times, organisms find new symbiotic relationships to expand their reach. With that in mind, every plant I saw in the ground, I now coat their roots with a solution of mycorrhizal fungi that I purchased in bulk from Amazon. My hope is to support this underground network, grow healthier plants, and do my job in helping in carbon sequestration. Next slide. Okay, this is revolutionary, but from this group, I also learned that we should all kill our lawns. Extreme as it sounds, it gets the message of what lawns are doing to the environment. We have 40 million acres of residential lawns, and nationwide, we use 9 billion gallons of water for landscape irrigation each day, and as much as half of that amount is simply wasted. Water conservation is the new reality, and in the month of August, Winchester declared a level 3 drought. Although many other towns, I think Burlington, have enacted a complete ban on watering lawns. The photo on the right is our lawn that we have replaced with pollinator patches and raised beds for our vegetables. And we are eventually going to get rid of our lawn entirely. Next slide, please. The message is transformative when gardens can no longer be simply ornamental. Our local gardens must serve other purposes where we create healthy soils, bring in native plant species, preserve native insect population, increase biodiversity, with our gardens now acting as sources of food and habitat. Yes, I continue to plant my dahlias, rose bushes, tulips, and other ornamental plants. I love their beauty, but I now value the interdependence of all our gardens. We are now planting a lot of native wildflowers and shrubs, and out of the 100 native plant species that I copied there, we have over 25 species in the ground. I'm excited as we have noticed an uptick in bees, butterflies, frogs, and birds, and I've begun to photograph and record the various species that we see now in the garden. And we have even registered our home on a nationwide database founded by Talony. In essence, think about being connected between gardens, this whole idea of interdependence. Next slide, please. I now ask the question, how do we recognize transformation in ourselves? Not change, but real transformation. Since we are a church, I reached for the teachings where Jesus repeatedly promised that everyone who followed him would be transformed. He promised to make his followers different from what they were, so different that they would need new terms to describe and think about themselves. Some of the new identities he used include disciples, servants, fishers of men, born again, peacemakers, children of God. He didn't promise these new identities would be easy or trouble-free to embrace. Rather, he warned his followers that both struggle and transformation would be an inevitable consequence of following him. Slide 15. Struggle is part of the transformation, just as the butterfly struggles to free itself from the cocoon as it goes through its own transformation. I'm thankful that I've been spared from a lot of struggles in my life. However, these last few months have been tough at so many levels, both mentally and physically. I've changed, and I remain grateful each day to my immediate and extended family, friends, and members of this community that are part of our network. This wonderful symbiotic relationship that we all participate in and that allows us to weather through the stresses in our lives. I return to the lessons from the Mycorrhizal Network, where crisis is the crucible of new relationships. Putting this very personal reflection together has given me an opportunity for deeper introspection as I continue on a path of mindfulness and knowing that it is okay to be vulnerable and learning to do a better job at allowing. I certainly need a lot more work in those areas. I end my reflection with this extremely positive message. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. As soon as they come out in leaf, you can see for yourselves and know that that summer is already near. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. I wonder if you might share the slides. There was so much useful information there. Terrific. I'm sure others would like that too. Our weekly offering is an opportunity of dedication, an invitation to live our values through acts of generosity. In this way, the offering is also a spiritual practice, a collective affirmation of our shared values and a commitment to the mission of this liberal religious congregation. Those attending via live stream will soon see information about how to donate. Those in the sanctuary are also welcome to donate electronically by referring to the information in the order of service. If you are visiting for the first time, we invite you to be our guest. Please complete the card in the pew rack in front of you and drop it in the collection plate. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received. Those who wish to do so are invited to join me in reciting our affirmation of shared ministry. We gather not for ourselves alone, but to use our common power to build the beloved community within and beyond these walls. We create and reaffirm this covenant this day to make justice flourish, to practice compassion amidst difference, and to embody transformative love. Now please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, Earth Was Given as a Garden.
In every detail of this day, let me be fully alive to the words I speak and those I hear, and to the eloquence of the silence where no words are spoken. Let me be fully alive to the work I do, how I prepare, how I pursue it, share it, and complete it. Let me be fully alive to the people I see this day, friend or stranger, easy and difficult. Let me be fully alive today to every instant, to the pulse of God at the heart of all things. Let us see this day as a gift from God. Let us take it, enjoy it, make it our own, and share it with others. Grant us strength to survive. Grant us grace to be generous. Grant us courage to stand tall for all that is good and fair. Amen.
chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Who the sun sets free. Oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
Let's say together the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Wonderful. This service has ended. I'll see you out on the terrace. Thank you, Ivan.